In 2025, we had a three-way title fight. The champion Max Verstappen versus the runner-up Lando Norris versus, I'm going to call him a rookie because it works with the analogy that we're going for, the rookie sensation Oscar Piastri. And this season's been full of drama. McLaren refusing to have a number one driver, PIA rules, disqualifications, crashes, and this all let Verstappen come right back into play with a chance at the title, only missing out by 2 points. But as we know, history tends to repeat itself, or at least repeat similar trends, which is exactly what's happened in F1 before, because this actually wasn't the first time this had happened. The year is 2007. Alonso was in his 6th rookie season, the reigning world champion, and he had just decided that he was going to join Ferrari. McLaren, for not the last time in his career. And same goes for Ferrari if we're counting again the 2007 McLaren as a Ferrari, which if we get down to the fundamentals, oh, we're bloody counting it. Oh, and also there was this rookie coming into F1 called Lewis Hamilton, but I doubt we'll have to pay much attention to him. He won't put up a fight against Alonso. This is going to be an easy season for Alonso. I doubt Hamilton will even stay that long in F1. But more importantly, we had a brilliant title fight between Alonso, the champion, Raikkonen, the runner-up, and then Lewis Hamilton, the rookie sensation. Like I said, sounds familiar? So let's go all the way back to 2007 and let's talk about the race that really turned the season on its head, which was the 2007 Chinese Grand Prix. But before we do that, here is a brief backstory for everything you need to know from the 2007 season up to this point. Right, we're going to do this in one breath. Kimi Raikkonen won the Open in Australia, setting what looked like the scene for Ferrari. However, that was it from Raikkonen until later in the season. From this point onwards, we had Alonso and Massa both pick up wins from Malaysia to Monaco, but Hamilton's consistency had kept him... I've already taken a breath. Had kept him looking very good this season, and eventually, after the 6th round of the season in Canada, he would get his first race win and go 8 points clear at the top of the table. Ferrari did pick up a few wins here and there with a 1-2 in France. They were starting to fall back from McLaren, and it very much was looking like it was going to be a 2-horse race. But McLaren started to have a civil war in their team, where Alonso and Hamilton were both damaging each other throughout the season, with the most famous one being in Hungary round 11, where Alonso stayed in the pit box for too long, meaning that Hamilton couldn't set another fast lap, and for his efforts Alonso was rewarded a 5-place grid penalty, and this pretty much summed up how the rest of the season would go for Fernando Alonso, as the gap between him and Hamilton would increase to 12 points after the Japanese Grand Prix, with him on 95 points to Hamilton's 107 and Raikkonen a further 5 points back on 90. With only 2 races left, it looked very good for Lewis Hamilton. And the first of the 2 was the Chinese Grand Prix. This was it. Lewis Hamilton's first chance to win the title. All he needed to do was score 3 points or more and Raikkonen would have been out of contention. And he only needed to score 2 more points than Fernando Alonso, and the same could be said for that, winning the title there and then. And quali went exactly how Lewis Hamilton needed it to, with him going on pole position by a 10th.5 to Kimi Raikkonen, with Fernando Alonso only managing 4th place. But in tricky conditions, it was anyone's game. 5 red lights and away we go. Hamilton got a brilliant start, boosting away from the pack, and the same could actually be said for Fernando Alonso in 4th, as he swooped around Felipe Massa for 3rd place. However, this wouldn't actually last long, as then Alonso would get dived by Massa into turn 6, with Massa retaking that spot. And actually, fun fact, further down the grid, if you saw that in the video, yep, that was Ralf Schumacher spinning. Just to tell you. Take a shot every time Schumacher spins, because it for sure is the first, but it won't be the last. However, after lap 1, the front started to chill out, with Hamilton gaining a gap on Kimi Raikkonen and Alonso sitting comfortably again in 4th, not really making any moves. And honestly, so did most of the grid for the next few laps. The highlights were Barrichello and Anthony Davidson, you'll recognise that name from F1 broadcast these days, colliding into each other, which would then eventually lead to Davidson having to retire from the race. Rosberg overtook his teammate Wurz, and Kovalainen was dropping like an absolute fly, which is when the first round of pit stops started to happen. Hamilton was the first of the front runners to jump for the pits, and he pitted on lap 15 with a 9-second gap to Kimi Raikkonen, deciding to stay on his intermediate tyres that were a little worn down and just refuel, as the track was starting to dry a little bit more, but they still needed to be on inters. Massa would follow suit, second of the front runners, pitting on lap 18, again keeping his tyres on, which all of them did, just refueling, with Alonso coming in on lap 19, and finally Kimi Raikkonen coming in on lap 20. And by this point of the race, he had actually not caught up to Lewis Hamilton, but definitely closed that 9-second gap all the way back down. Fun fact, while all of this was going on, we actually had a tyre gone loose from Toyota. It's actually quite a funny clip. I don't know how they actually managed to do that, but well done, because Toyota was giving us all of the drama this weekend. Ralf Schumacher, like I told you about the spin, well, here's another one for you. At this time, as he was trying to get past the STR Ferrari of Liuzzi down the outside, he clipped the front left tyre of Liuzzi and went sent spinning. But while everyone was starting to settle back down after the last pit stops, the track was really starting to dry out now, and this is when teams were starting to wonder if it is time that we should go put our drivers on the dry tyres. Now, they still had a few laps left to go, but it very much was becoming which tyres quicker, the intermediates or the dries. Who is going to risk it all for those much needed points? Well, for Massa, he couldn't think about that just yet, and well, for Massa, maybe he was thinking about it a little bit too much, because Alonso eventually caught back up to Massa and got the overtake eventually done on lap 26. And funnily enough, on this exact lap, Massa would then dive into the pits to try for the dry tyres. But in typical Ferrari fashion, just as they pitted for those dries, an absolute downpour started to come at the Chinese Grand Prix, and all of a sudden those dry tyres were absolutely useless. Ferrari, you never cease to amaze me. But this sudden bit of downpour really made everyone struggle, and the entire track just went into chaos. Hamilton was fighting his car, losing multiple seconds to Raikkonen and Alonso each lap. Ralf Schumacher again went spinning. Third shot. Sutil in the Spiker actually had a massive crash heading into the last corner of the circuit, and Raikkonen was now officially less than a second behind Lewis Hamilton. And with the way Hamilton was driving, he was not going to be able to hold on, as he just could not keep it on the track. Going wide at multiple corners on one lap, really buckling under the pressure. And I have to tell you, this battle between Raikkonen and Hamilton just goes to show how different F1 was even just in 2007. Because you had Sutil's just stranded car on the start straight, Hamilton went wide and was pretty close to the car, and then you also just have, out of randomly nowhere, Rosberg showing up, who's gone off wide on the track, just on the TV broadcast. And while all of this was going on, it was just yellow flags, not even a safety car. In 2025, that would have been a red flag straight away. But still, the leaders weren't pitting. They refused to go on to new inters, and by lap 29, Hamilton was just struggling way too much, and eventually got overtaken by Raikkonen, who looked so blisteringly quick at this point of the race. And the same could be said for Fernando Alonso, as Hamilton would go on to lose 11.5 seconds in only 2 laps to his teammates. And it would get to a point where it was do or die for Hamilton. The team had to make a decision to either pit him or leave him there just absolutely stranded on the track. And Hamilton fans, this is when you avert your eyes.
Oh, he's doing a good job.
Thank you, Ted. Into the pits anyway comes Lewis Hamilton. He goes straight on into the gravel track. Can he keep the wheels spinning? Can he get some momentum going? No, he can't. It's all going to get away from him.
And just like that, Hamilton went from second, basically winning the championship in China, to Alonso and Raikkonen breathing down his neck. And hey, for the rest of the grid, Alonso was able to continue into second place, even after Massa did put a bit of an attack on during the end of the race. However, he couldn't hold on to his tyres and Massa dropped off a bit, meaning Raikkonen came first with Alonso second, Massa third, and we actually had some crazy results outside of the podium. Sebastian Vettel, you know, the dude who had just joined STR Ferrari, again, for anyone out there who doesn't know who STR Ferrari are, Toro Rosso, Alpha Tauri, V-Carb, Racing Bulls, whatever you want to call them, just know them as Red Bull's sister team. He would come in 4th, which was just such an incredible achievement for him. He'd outdo it in 2008. And then also, the man, the myth, the legend, the GOAT himself, Jenson Button, managed to come 5th in that dog shit Honda. So it was an insane race just for actual race results in the top 5. And just for the championship, it was just incredible. And we all know how the story ends. Sadly for Lewis Hamilton, and very happily for Kimi Raikkonen considering the bad luck he had had in F1 so far up to this point, Raikkonen would go on to win the Brazilian Grand Prix with Hamilton not scoring enough points, where Raikkonen would win with 110 points to Hamilton and Alonso on 109, meaning that Raikkonen clawed back that 17-point gap in just 2 races. It was such an incredible comeback. But it was a shame for Hamilton as he ended up losing the chance to win his first title, and a first title in a rookie season, which I don't think will ever be done in F1 now that Hamilton didn't do it in 2007. Thank you for watching, everyone. What other races would you like for me to cover? Because I've got so much time on my hands on the winter break, I'd love to continue doing these sorts of videos. I enjoyed doing them last year and I'll continue doing them this year. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done already. And hey, enjoy the rest of the weekend or whenever I put this video up. Take care and I'll see you all very soon.